Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome. And thank you for taking time today to attend my Kiva Empowering Dreams, the Kiva Interest Free Loan Story. So I am going to talk a lot about Kiva, the benefits of Kiva, eligibility, requirements, some success stories that we've had here at the WBDC as we are being the hub. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It looks like we have Kelly on that'll be monitoring the chat as well as Josh. So if we have any questions or any technical issues, they will be here to assist me as I can't see the chat as I'm presenting. So again, thank you for taking time to learn more about Kiva and how it can empower some dreams and goals that you have for your business aspirations. All right. All right, so first, before I get started with Kiva, just want to talk a little bit about the Women's Business Development Center, which I am a part of. I am the Access to Capital Manager there, heading up Kiva. And because of that, we are one of the Kiva hubs where we're able to assist you as you are navigating your Kiva journey. I'm able to see the application from beginning to end, and it just allows us also in the center to provide additional capital resources in addition to all the other programs, webinars, workshops, and great things that we hold at the WBDC. The WBDC is located in Chicago. If you are not familiar, we are a non-for-profit and have been in existence for about 30 years. Just a few of the states and things that we cover. We have a stretch of about 9 states that we cover. We are in 5 major markets, and we have a great announcement that we'll also be adding the Peoria market, which is awesome for those folks down south. So we're currently in Minnesota, Illinois, Kansas, North Dakota, and Wisconsin, and continuing to grow. So it's great to see how we're able to continue to extend our reach and to add additional services to continue to help business owners grow in the many vast variety of ways in which we do. All right, let's talk about Kiva. So the first thing I want to start is when I saw the title of the webinar today, I thought this was very fitting for Kiva. And it's actually one of their quotes that they stand by. And as I onboarded with Kiva, this is something that I saw continual. So, and I think as we navigate and talk more about Kiva, this will also resonate and why the connection is there. So dreams are universals and opportunities are not. We envision a financially inclusive world where all people hold the power to improve their lives. So that is the tool that has been that Kiva created in order to help fuel the dreams and goals of business owners like yourself. What is Kiva? So let's talk about Kiva. Kiva was established in 2005. It is one of the world's first micro lending websites. I like to say that Kiva creates opportunity for small businesses. It creates a small business ecosystem to support small businesses financially. Since beginning, Kiva has brought together 2 million lenders on this one platform. And over $1.5 billion have been dispersed to the variety of business owners on this platform. In addition, Kiva serves about 77 different countries. And of course, these lenders are impacted mainly by impact, but of course they want to be paid, but do not gain any interest on any of the capital that they are extending to the business owners on this platform. It's basically created to continue to support and provide non-traditional capital options for business owners like yourself. So the problem that when we talk about things from a capital standpoint, we have traditional capital and we have non-traditional capital, and there's a missing micro for sure when you're thinking about lending. Traditional lenders prefer to make larger loans and require borrowers to have, as we know, established credit, collateral, audit business financials. In some cases, we also may see that lenders find it to be more expensive to create smaller microloans like what Kiva provides. And most of the borrowers that are looking to access these smaller microloans may not have the established credit, may not yet have the collateral, may not yet even have the business financials, maybe startups, maybe 1 to 2 years in business and still, no revenues as of yet. So then that's where we kind of get into, okay, if I can't, borrow from traditional lenders, let's see if I can try credit cards, right? Let's try online lenders, or the worst, the payday loans or pawn shops and things like that, where you have upwards of very high interest rates, 25% or greater, as I've seen, because we have no middle ground, right? So that's where Kiva comes in, filling that missing micro that I'm talking about. So Kiva is a loan for the range of $1,000 to $15,000 at a 0% interest. And the terms vary from 12 to 36 months. It doesn't require very high credit scores. There is no collateral to secure the loan, and there are not any audited business financials that are required in order for you to apply for the loan, which is great when you're talking from startups, because again, you're trying to get the business started. So all of these various things that I just stated, you may not have quite yet. So the loan program is just as simple as I can say it. You borrow, you repay, and you grow. And now, because Kiva has been so successful on the platform, they now have a secondary way that borrowers can get up to. Successful borrowers that complete the program the first time around are able to access up to $25,000. And again, guys, this is at 0% interest. Which still to me is mind blowing, because as we know, we're right at prime at 8.5. And depending on what traditional lenders that you're dealing with, you're saying you're looking at 8.5 plus 2% plus whatever their rates are at their particular institutions. So let's get into talking a little bit about some basic eligibility requirements. So you do have to be at least 18 years older. You must use the loan for business purposes, not personal purposes. You and your business must be based in the United States. You cannot currently be in foreclosure or have an active bankruptcy. But this is the caveat to that. Even if you've had a bankruptcy in the past, you still qualify for Kiva. And I'll say that again, because most people are like, huh? Because typically they count themselves out when they already know that they've had an existing bankruptcy, because most traditional lenders and even non-traditional lenders still are afraid of that lending process. So long as that bankruptcy is not in active status, it has a date of being discharged and not active, you still qualify to apply for Kiva. In addition to those eligibilities that I talked about, you must be willing to demonstrate your social capital by having a small number of friends, families, I even say clients, that are interested in making a loan to you. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is the borrower process and what it should look like from beginning to end if successfully following the steps. So first, you would submit an application. And typically it does take 30 minutes to an hour, but it just depends on kind of where you are in the process, what documents you have gathered, if your story is already together, your picture is already together, if you have those numbers readily available, then you can move through the application process relatively quickly. But typically, for the clients that I do work with, I do give up to a week just to be sure that the application is polished and being presented in its best light to our underwriters. The next phase is Kiva review, which also includes CAM review, which is myself. as the capital access manager, that gives me also the ability prior to the underwriters of Kiva looking at the application, being able to scrub the application, being sure that you've checked off all the boxes, being sure we're not missing anything. If we're looking and deep diving into your story and picture, being sure that picture is clear, they definitely know who you are, what type of business that you have, and being sure that your story doesn't have any grammatical errors or spelling errors or any of those things. And any additional documents that Kiva might need to prove, whether that's on the personal side, financials, or the business side, or maybe just clarification on when your business was established, are there business revenues, things of those such happens during that review period. The next phase, which I'll go more in depth with as we continue in the presentation, is your fundraising phase, which should be about 1 to 45 days. It can grow a little bit longer, and that's okay. Kiva does allow if you're hitting that target and really, really close, because again, ultimately our goal is we want you to win, and we want you to capture those dollars and that loan amount that you are going after, of course. So that should be about 1 to 45 days in that. And then once you have completed that fundraising phase, you move to your repayment, which is from 12 to 36 months, again, giving the amount of the loan that you have been qualified for. So next, the criteria Kiva looks at as far as looking at your application. So this slide sometimes can get a bit confused. So I'll go just a little bit more in depth here. So some positive things, of course, if you have low to no debt monthly is great. If you have a great high credit score, that's awesome. If you have, of course, we would love to see that your business and personal finances are separate. If the business is active, that is something that always comes up. Kiva does want to be sure those funds are not being commingled, right? Because as a business owner, they should be separate. Your business should be business and your personal should be personal. And if you have high business revenues, those are great. But again, those aren't the only factors that will ensure that you'll be approved for Kiva. Some things that are have no effect. If you have collateral, great. If you don't, it's okay. If you have low to no business revenue is one that I like to talk about. Again, so if you're a startup and you're in that startup phase and you're needing that startup capital, you again can apply for Kiva. You don't have to have business revenue. And another one, as I talked about in previous slide, if you have a past bankruptcy, it's okay. And then if you have no online business presence quite yet, that is still okay to apply for Kiva. Some negative things that, one thing for sure, from a negative standpoint, if you are at an 80% debt to income ratio, unfortunately, that is an automatic denial. And here's why. If you're already at 80%, if we were to add some additional debt or additional capital to help infuse into the business, you'll be at 100%. So you'll just be more stressed out trying to pay the amount of your loan and not really being able to infuse that capital the correct way. And we also would not be setting you up for success. So if you're at that 80% threshold, we do suggest to just pay down that debt sum prior to applying for Kiva. And having past debts that are not being paid on time is a negative. But if we have some ways to talk through, because I've had clients, maybe illness, death in family, loss of job, whatever those things are that maybe have caused you to be behind on bills and you're working really hard with those debtors to get caught up, then we can talk through that through the application. So those are just some positive things that, of course, are great. Some ones that are okay if you have them, if you don't have them, no effect, and some negative ones to look out for as well. So the Kiva loan size. So this slide is a great snapshot of what your private funding and public funding would look like. And what the terms are, what the possible terms would be. So again, I won't go over all of them, but for example, say you were looking right at that range of 3,500 to 6,000. Typically in your private fundraising phase that we talked about previous, you would need probably about 10 to 20 family, friends, or clients as your social capital to go on board with you. And typically those terms are right at about 24 months. If you are looking for that large amount on 15,000, you would probably need about 30 to 40 friends, family, or clients. And that term range will be right at about 36 months. So that just kind of outlines what it would look like depending on the size of your loan, just so you can have an idea of how many family and friends would have to put some skin in the game with you. And we'll go more in depth through each section with that. So some things that Kiva loan cannot be used for, right? So one of which I always get is purchasing of stock or other equity investments. So that's home or real estate properties or things like that. That is not something that Kiva can be used for. Another one that I'll point out, again, I won't cover them all. Another one that I often see is refinancing of credit card debt or debt in general. I get a lot of times clients will say, hey, Janine, I paid out a lot. My credit cards are really high. I'm trying to pay maybe an existing loan that I already have down. Those are not direct infusions into the business. And Kiva wants that the capital that you access are being directly infused into your business. And I'll talk more in depth about that and what that looks like. But some examples are, maybe your working capital, maybe a build out for your particular business, maybe your marketing strategy, right? Things like that that can directly be infused into the business, and the business owner is able to get a return on that particular investment and hopes to grow the business, right? So those are some examples of the loan not being utilized. So these are some things that Kiva would ask for if you are for business proof. And again, of course, you do have to be a business to apply for the loan. So business taxes, again, if you don't quite have taxes yet, that's okay. So your incorporation documents or your LLC, or if you're sole proprietor doing business as, showing that document would justify that you are an active business and you are legalized to do business within the US. So any of those types of documents would be helpful for us to verify the business itself. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper and looking at the borrower process and what that looks like and what to expect on your journey as you apply for Kiva. So the application process is, of course, the opportunity for one's personal story and the business story, of course, for the prospective lenders, that audience that you'll be in front of. And that's just not the public lenders that you have access to, the 2 million that I talked about earlier, but also for your friends and family or clients to understand why you're accessing capital at this point, whether being an established business or a startup business. It allows you that interaction, that direct connection with them to kind of hear you out and understand why you need the capital and how you're going to infuse the capital. Also, I want to go back to that. During the application process is when you would upload those additional documents needed, the picture that I talked about, the story, and any other documents needed to support the application as it's going through process. So the private fundraising period that I've talked about. So this is that period that can range from 5 to 40 friends, families, or clients that support the loan. It's not so much about how much that those particular people put in, it's being sure that you're meeting the amount of people. And they do have to pledge a minimum of $25 towards your loan. If they pledge more, that's great. But the minimum is $25. So we're not so concerned about how much. We're concerned that you're getting those people as your social capital, as your skin in the game. Another great way to family, friends, or clients are letting them know as you're paying your loan back, they're being paid. You just need them to vouch who you are. Because again, Kiva is non-traditional in the way we're not securing collateral, right? We're not going to be on your credit score. It's basically moral and character. So we're entrusting that you're a small business owner and you're really looking to access this capital and that you're going to do right by the capital. And Kiva feels if you're having your friends, your families, your clients, putting skin in the game, they have the eyes on you as well, then you're more prone to pay your loan back, because ultimately we want the loan to be paid back so that we're able to continue the process and help other small businesses like yourself. So the next phase is what we call the public fundraising period. And that's where you get your big dollars. That's the platform that we talked about previous, where we have 2 million investors or lenders on that platform that feed your loan. And that's where your picture is important, your story is important, because you won't be able to directly engage with this audience. They'll just have your picture and your story. So you want to be sure that you connect with them in the best way. And really, as I always say, pull at the heartstrings, because again, this is capital needed in order for you to drive your business, and it's important for you. So if they are able to make a connection with you, whether that's with your business, maybe your personal story, maybe how you got started, maybe looking at the impact that your business or yourself have had in the community, all of those things are great things to show that you are eligible, and you deserve to actually have this amount of capital that you're pursuing. So I really say that story and that picture is really important when telling your story of who you are, and allowing not only that your public fundraising phase to get to know you, but also your private fundraising phase as well. So next, after we go through our public and our private phase that we talked about, your loan is fully funded. And once the loan has been fully funded, as you see my example here, your funds are dispersed within 7 business days, and the vendor that Kiva uses is PayPal. And so those funds will be dispersed that way. Once, of course, the funds are dispersed, we're all excited, but we still got to pay back. So repayment occurs about 30 days after the funds have been dispersed, and you'll start to pay back your loan. And what's a great thing is, as you're paying back your loan, those family, those friends, even those lenders on your the public standpoint, where you access those 2 million lenders, they're able to see kind of where you are in the process, that you're paying back on time. So it's really exciting for them to see you win, and you to also see that they're getting, their funds back as you're paying back. So it's a great exchange between lenders and borrowers. So the next thing I wanted to highlight, I had some great success stories, and I have more coming down the pipeline this year, which I'm really excited about. So I wanted to put 3 different examples of 3 different successful business owners that this year successfully raised their loan. So one of which is Marisha. It's Kids For Us, For You, LLC. I would trip up the whole time we would talk about this particular business. And I'm going to click the link too, because I want to also dig a little deeper so that you're able to see what those profiles look like. And you're able to kind of understand where I'm talking about the importance of your story and your picture. So Marisha is a daycare center, and she was looking to grow and expand her daycare center. She wanted to add an additional bathroom to her residency so that she was able to service more children. So I'm going to actually click the link so that you can see what it looks like on the Kiva platform. And this is just a story. So as you see, Marisha talks in depth about who she was, what got her started in the industry that she's a part of, how she's looking to maybe challenges too that she's faced throughout her life, because of course life happens and we all have different challenges and things that others can relate to. and how she overcame those and what she's doing currently to be a successful business owner. So I'm clicking here so that you are able to, I'm going to probably have to slide this over for you all to see. But this is an example of what your Kiva link would look like. So your private personal link would only be on the Kiva platform. It's not a public platform as you would see like your GoFundMe's or your GoDaddy crowdfunding. It is the the lenders on the platform as well as borrowers are vetted through an application process and are all giving unique links to either lend or borrow. So this is an example, Marisha's profile, the total loan amount that she was ultimately granted. It also lets you know how many lenders it took for her to get there, which we were super excited about. What the breakdown looked like. So her particular loan, again, given what her financial picture looked at, Kiva gave her about 36 months to pay back her loan. It allows you to see also her disbursement date this year. Again, that story that we talked about. A little bit about the description of the business, so the type of business, so that people could connect. She's in the South Suburban area in Chicago, South Suburb area of Chicago. She's a home-based daycare, just again, so that the lenders can get an idea of who she is and her target clients and possibility, right, of revenue streams that she's able to generate from that. And it also, what's the purpose of the loan? So it gave a breakdown of that as we talked about. Wanting use the loan to make updates to the daycare's playground and backyard and purchase supplies and toys for a new classroom she'll be at. So that's an example of Marisha's link. Right, I'm going to close out of that. So our next borrower, which was very exciting, again, a completely different industry than Marisha. She is in retail, a retail industry. And she was also a great borrower to work with. And it was a new venture for her, stepping out as a small business owner and something that she's always had the connection with, but just trying to figure out, how to get started and what capital is actually needed. So she needed funding to fund the inventory for her business. So again, just giving you examples of different ways in which this direct capital of Kiva can be infused in the business to get your business going, to generate some revenue. So this is Melissa. Again, a retailer. She explains the type of clothing that she sells, gives a description. I'm going to click on her link as well so that you can also get an idea of what her profile looked like. So based on the information gathered, she was able to be approved for about $4,500, which was awesome for her and for her vision of her business. She talked about her story. She has a story. I was unable to copy that in my PowerPoint because it was a little longer, but that's okay. Again, you want to connect as much as possible and as best as possible through your words. Again, who she is, what she's done prior, and why she's getting started in her new role and her new business. So this tells you a little bit about her. Her loan terms were 24 months based on her financial situation. So that's her breakdown. Next, we saw already on my slide, this is her business description, and then she talks about the purpose of her loan. Again, buying equipment, technology startup, merchandise, continued inventory that's based on trends and sales and consumer insight and style. Because again, this is a new venture with the pop-up, so she wants to be sure that her items are constantly trending and up to date to continue her clients buying with her. So that's another example of someone that's a different industry. So we've seen daycare and we've now seen retail. So the next borrower I'm going to highlight is Rodney. Rodney has been also part of the WBDC in different capacity. He's been a part of our financial boot camp. He's worked with some other partners of ours for other lending resources that have been given. So it was a pleasure also to see that Rodney was able to get his loan funded. And so Rodney is in the arts and entertainment would be the best way to sum up the type of business that he does. So I'm going to click Rodney's link so that we're able to see what his profile. Now, Rodney was able to get $9,500 from Kiva, and you see his amount of lenders that it took for him to get to that goal. And this is Rodney's story. Rodney has a very long story because he's been in his industry for quite some time. And he's found very different creative ways to fund his business along the way. He's been really creative in using his capital and infusing it the right way to get the different equipment or work on special projects that he wanted to, or recordings, or all of those great things. So he's been very creative over the course of his business in order to use his capital in the best way that he can. He's had a couple of different types of loans, traditional and non-traditional. Like I said, he's worked with different partners, and all of those things are also helpful, again, right, when you're applying for Kiva, because it shows us that you've already been responsible prior to coming to Kiva with paying off loans too. So that also worked in Rodney's favor. And he talked about it, right, because that was something that he was proud of. So those are some, this is another example. And so, again, Rodney tells us a little bit about him, his history, why he decided to apply for Kiva. A business description, which is very in-depth. Rodney's going to give you all the information, so you're not going to have to guess or check when it comes to what he's trying to do and what his goals is, which is great. And so additionally, he talked about we would like to have operating capital to cover costs such as payroll, marketing, software subscriptions. Our goal is to build enough cash flow and business credit to acquire a venue that would accommodate performance space, recording studios, art gallery, and a cafe. And so the Kiva loan would help cover vinyl manufacturing costs for the first vinyl album release. So he was working on an album that he needed some additional capital to get that funding and get that push. So that's another example, again, a different industry, showing ways in which these particular Kiva borrowers were able to use that capital to infuse directly into their business. And so with that particular loan, the terms were right at 36 months. And again, your terms does vary on what your financial situation and what your picture looks like. Kiva, again, wants you to win. So if we need to make that loan a longer term for you, payments are smaller, Kiva is okay with doing that as well. So again, Kiva is for you in a sense with trying to use, because it's non-traditional, it has the flexibility to kind of work at different angles. So that's the example of Rodney. I'm going to close out of that. And so with that being said, we've talked a little bit about some success stories. We've talked a little bit about the eligibility, the requirements, what your public and private funding phases look like. I am going to open it up for questions that you may have, anything that I did not cover, or any clarity that you want around anything that I did cover today. I will allow, I believe Kelly or Josh is monitoring the chat with that. And before I take questions, I again want to thank you for your time with me today. And again, if you are a Kiva borrower, if you actively have an application and you have some questions, or you're still contemplating should you finish the application, or maybe you have the application, you're struggling with your story, or want to be sure the picture is okay, or just seeing if it's a good fit, you can always make an appointment with me. I have my scheduling link on here, phone number or email. You can shoot me an email. I always allow some time per week for Kiva clients. So even if the calendar may say that I'm booked, I'll always find time to be sure that I'm helpful in the way of being sure that I'm able to help you with your Kiva needs. I think that's all that I have. Do we have any questions, comments, anything that I can help with? Oh, last thing I wanted to say too, what's also a great thing with us being a hub here at the WBDC, which is also, we are also a BSO partner, as you all know, for Cook County. It allows us to follow the application from beginning to end. So with those particular borrowers that I showed you, I was able to kind of be there as that journey went. So if there was questions, if Kiva was missing some documents, if they had questions, to share them on, to say, hey, let's keep going. Because I know at one point Melissa's like, hey, I got a few days, I'm still not there. You know, Marisha got down to 3 days, we still needed $650. So again, finding ways in which, like I said, wherever I can infuse myself to be sure that you're successful in this journey as a hub, that's what I'm here to do. So again, please do really utilize me as the best of your ability, and however I can help, I'm definitely willing and able to help. Again, I don't know if there's any questions. Kelly, Josh, are there any questions that I need to?
I don't see any questions. But I did want to just recognize that that was a great presentation and very insightful and a lot of takeaways. I did want to point out, because you identified this earlier, that prime's at 8.5. So when we think about some of those vehicles we have, you know, such as credit cards, right? You're adding the actual interest onto prime. So we're now looking at higher rates above 24% up to 30. So there were a lot of great facts that you identified. I wanted to ask you, there was in the one screen where you were showing, you know, some of the reasons and purposes behind seeking this is a solution. What have you seen as being a higher priority with some of the clients that are coming to you with a need for this?
You mean as far as the sources of capital that they're using prior to trying
Yes.
to? I would say for sure the credit card is what I hear a lot of. A lot of people may leverage personal loans or home equity loans. I do also see people trying to, you know, utilize their social capital, friends and family, to kind of support them along the way. And maybe that has kind of come to an end, and it's like, hey, I need to, you know, ramp up and get some more capital to push to the next step in which, you know, I'm trying to go. I do sometimes see too that on the negative side that there's capital that has been accessed that has not positively impacted the business owner because, of course, maybe at some point at the business they've gotten in some, you know, desperate times of needing capital and, you know, thought like, hey, this is the capital that I need to drive the business, and unfortunately, it wasn't. And again, as business owners, like I say, you're learning as you're going. No one's perfect at this. You're trying to access all the information and apply all the information all at the same time, and just being sure that you're accessing the right capital. Our things here that we say is accessing the right capital at the right time, because it does make a huge difference. Because once you take on that additional debt, whatever that is, if that's a personal loan, if that's a credit card, that is now, you know, reflecting as debt. And if that debt that you took on is not directly being infused into the business, and it did nothing for the business, and now you're kind of back at square one, it does affect, because that picture that you had, you know, 2 years ago or wherever before you access that capital, that now that debt to income has changed, right? Because now you have that new debt and you're like, hey, that debt didn't quite do what I needed to do. So now I need some additional debt. So you want to just be sure as you're accessing whatever type of debts or capital, as we say, but ultimately it does become debt, that you're being sure that you're strategic in it, and that it's a great fit for you and your business before you know, make that move. And, you know, being sure that you're talking it out, like with us, access to capital. You know, a lot of clients that are on here are from Kelly. Just being sure that, you know, you're making the right choices and the right decisions when it's coming to that, because ultimately, most business owners don't just access capital one time. During the course of having a business, there are multiple times that the business owner is going to have to access capital, and because there's multiple needs that the business is going to need as it grows, depending, you know, from small all the way up to established. So just be prepared and be as knowledgeable as, you know, as you possibly can, and utilize the resources as best you can.
I do have one more question and then I won't. Oh, I see we have one in the chat, so we'll go to this first. This is like getting funds from friends and family, right? By Gina.
Um, no, because and initially in the private funding, you are asking your family and friends to be your social capital, your skin in the game. But once you cross over to the public fundraising phase, those are not your family and friends. Those are pure investors that want to invest in the small business ecosystem, that have funding. And these can be, and I've seen a few of the different type of investors on that platform. They can be just investors. Some of them are small business owners like you. Some of them are organizations that just have funding and want to fund and fuel the small business ecosystem. Sometimes, ironically, we have, and it's funny, there's people that may have got on the platform because, let's say, you know, Dania had a campaign going, and I had a great experience with Kiva. They leave their funds in there and they use those funds to reinvest in other businesses that they see an interest in. So there's a variety of different types of lender on the platform. But yes, initially you are trying to get family, friends, and clients on board, because that's your social capital, that's your skin in the game. That would be the same as if you were to go with a traditional lender and they say, hey, you need collateral to secure this loan, or hey, you need a certain credit score to secure this loan. So in that ways, yes, in your private funding, that is your skin in the game. But no, the 2 million investors, or unless they are friends and family that you know, I don't know, but typically they are not.
I think we have another question. Gina, did you want to just clarify? I think you're asking if I'm understanding this correctly. How about if I don't? I think maybe that's in the pre-rec stage where there's a specific targeted number that you have to raise from family and friends. So I think she's asking if you can't do that.
I don't have family or
Family or
friends.
friends.
Oh. I always say, because people will say that to me, I say leverage your network. So if that includes family and friends, great. But if that also includes clients that have done business with you year after year or time after time, that's really important. Leveraging your network, leveraging people that, you know, want to see you win and have, you know, taken part in whatever product service that you provide. So I think that's a one way to look at it. And sometimes once you kind of sit down, because in some of the borrowers I've worked with, they're like, I don't know who's going to be on board. I'm not sure, because we're not asking for hundreds of people, right? Depending on the size of the loan, the largest amount of people that you'll need is about 30 people. So I think just thinking outside of the box, and again, maybe even if it's strangers, even if it's people that, you know, you come in contact with, coworkers that you talk to. Like I said, our network is a lot larger than we think. Maybe organizations that you're a part of, schools that you've attended, things like that. Thinking outside of the box of how can I leverage my own personal network to get on board with me pushing my dreams and goals, I think is the best solution or suggestion that I would have to that.
And what is the minimum investment again from friends and family?
The minimum is $25. Oh, LinkedIn. Yeah, that's a great avenue as well, because if they're connecting with you on those platforms, and you know, and you have a presence, and I'm sure you've talked about your business and things that you're doing, that's another great source. Because again, keep in mind, you will get a unique Kiva link that will be unique to you. And so you will be able to share that link with whoever you want to. So if that is, the avenue that you want to go, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever those platforms that you feel you have a stronger presence, absolutely.
Now, do the applicants have to provide evidence or verification with the utilization of funds? So if you're purchasing equipment, do they submit invoices or
No,
anything
they
like that?
don't. Kiva trusts
Okay.
that if you've applied for the loan, that you're going to use the funds towards that particular capital infusion, whatever that may be. So again, I guess my best thing to say to that is just being sure if you're accessing the funds and you're saying that you're going to use it, just to be responsible with the capital, because ultimately this is, being used to grow your business. Thank you, Gina, for the questions. Anyone else? Anything else that I can answer, or any clarity on anything else? And then if you are interested in Kiva, I would always say too, I know I showed a few profiles today, but going to Kiva, and that's kiva.org, just to take a look at the profiles that's on there, the process that I've talked about today. And if you have any additional questions, again, please you leverage me as a resource, as a hub, to kind of help assist you as you navigate your application process. Yes, it says, are you able to set an appointment for assistance with the application? Absolutely. And I think we have a few applicants that are actually on the call today that were referred by Kelly, and they were on it. They're like, hey, I set the appointment because I've done the application. And that's great, because that allows me time to go through the application, make suggestions, be sure the application is updated correctly, make sure there's nothing missing, nothing that we can add. Maybe there's correspondence already from Kiva underwriters, and sometimes you may not have seen that, or maybe you don't understand exactly what they're asking. That's also a way in which that I can help. And then, like I said, with the other borrowers that I work with, able to say, hey, congratulations, you've been approved. And I also like the great thing too about Kiva is, say you say, hey, I went for Kiva and I need 10,000. Kiva says, you know what, right now, Danielle, you're not ready for 10,000, but we'll give you 6,000. And I've had that in various situations. Then you're able to say, okay, I'll take the 6,000, and then they'll allow you to break down what your new terms will be and what your monthly payments will be as well. So again, you may have correspondence like that, that you're trying to say, hey, is this, should I go ahead and move forward with this capital? Will it really do what I need it to do? Or do I hold back and wait till I'm able to qualify for more? Yes, this is during the CAM and Kiva review, as we call it, is a great time for us to kind of iron out all those details. And then just even being sure that even that a dollar amount, because most applicants, everyone needs 15,000, but sometimes, smaller amounts of capital being infused the right way into the business can significantly impact and change things if utilized right. So and I'm sure if, ones that have been on the call that work with Kelly, I'm sure she does a great job with breaking down, your cash flow statements and your expenses and overheads, and seeing where, that missing gap is, and what exactly, how exactly you can use that capital to the best of your ability. Absolutely, that's time to just iron out all of those things. Anything else? I don't see anything else in there. Thank you, Gina. I appreciate it for you being on the call. And thank you all that are on the call with us today. I appreciate your time. And again, my information is there. And if any way that I can help, if this is, the route that you want to go on, a good fit, please do reach out.